Hello and welcome to the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Nowakowski. I am a salon owner, educator, mindset, and leadership coach that helps salon owners go from overwhelmed and burnt out to motivated and empowered. It is my mission to help you systemize your business, generate more profit, and create a career that you are absolutely in love with. Join us every week to learn about the small shifts you can make to elevate your business regarding mindset, marketing, social media, business systems, and so much more. Welcome to this week's episode of the Elevate podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode because today I'm going to do something a little different. I am an avid Facebook user. I feel that this platform is underutilized in so many ways when it comes to growing and building your business. It's a different demographic, and it's just something that I think a lot of people overlook. So when I open Facebook lately, I noticed that there are so many hairstylists, so many salon owners in these business forums looking for advice. And I feel like this is super dangerous. If you've been feeling overwhelmed and overworked from owning your salon, you're not alone. If you're like many salon owners, you wanted to build a salon that makes you feel fulfilled, passionate, and something that brings you freedom and flexibility into your life. But you ended up being exhausted from taking on all your business tasks alone. It doesn't have to be this way. It's time for change. The Elevated Salon Owner Collective will help you do just that. You'll automate your salon, implement solid business systems, transform your salon culture, and take charge of your online presence to regain freedom back into your business. I'd love for you to experience the freedom and fulfillment that you've desired when you decided to create your business. To learn more, visit opulentbeautypro.com/elevate or click the link in the show notes. Going into a Facebook group with a ton of people with different perspectives of business, different personal experiences within their business, and really reaching out to people that might not have created the result that you envision for yourself is really dangerous and can derail your progress and can kind of shift the mindset you need to really do what's best for you. I think a lot of these responses are triggered by emotion and they are reactive. And they're coming from a place of negative feelings at times or just feelings in general. And when it comes to business, we really need to make logical decisions that make sense and not really base a ton of our decisions on emotions, which is, something that happens a lot. So today I'm going to share a post that I came across that I thought was super valuable. And this is going to be for my stylists out there. And hopefully this will be a good resource for my salon owners out there, because I just believe that there is a lot of misconception on what you really need or what creates a successful business. So here's the post. It says, "Hi, I'm a commission stylist making 45% commission. In 1 year, I brought in $120,000. In services and take home, I brought home $54,000. Is this normal for commission salons, or could I make more renting a chair?" So there's so much that I want to dive into this question. And instead of me answering the question in the forum, because there's a lot of reactivity, people like to protect their personal opinions. And people definitely come from a place of ego. When they're coming from a place of ego, they're coming from a place of my answer is the only right answer, right? But as a stylist in this position, we need to make an informed decision because there's so much more that goes into renting a chair than just making more money. So I think if you are a stylist and you are making a good income or producing a lot of revenue for yourself in a commission salon, I think a really great place to start is really asking yourself, what do you want for your future? Really diving into your 5-year plan is going to help guide you and make a very conscious decision on what the next best step is for you. So what do I mean by that? So this is going to be the first step of advice that I give to this person that posted on Facebook. 1, are you somebody who in the future would like to open your own salon? Are you somebody in the future who is interested in opening a salon suite? If that is not your goal, then renting a chair merely to make more money might not be the best decision for you. If you are somebody who wants a lot of freedom in your personal life, if you want to travel, if you want to, start a family, then being a commissioned stylist might be the right decision for you because you can go to work and then go home and not have to worry about the business side of running the business. Now, if you are in a salon that isn't allowing you for freedom, time off freedom, all of those things, then maybe the commission salon you're in isn't the right salon for you. So that is the first step I like to share for my coaching opinion thus far. What do you want for your future? What's in your 5-year plan? Now, here are some realistic things you need to consider if you are thinking about going to rental, okay? Because there's so much more that goes into it. It's not just like picking up your business and moving to a new location and dropping it into place and expecting to get the same results from what you're currently doing in your commission salon. First and foremost, these are questions you need to ask yourself. Do you have the ability to set boundaries with your clients? Because clients will push those boundaries to the max, which will potentially lead to burnout. Also, if you are going to go on your own, I'm assuming that this commission salon has probably helped you build your business. They probably have a solid brand. They probably have a solid client funnel to capture leads and then turn those leads into paying clients. What is your marketing plan for yourself moving forward? What is your retention plan for your clients? Because you need those things to maintain that same amount of revenue coming in. What I see a lot of times is a lot of stylists will leave and they will go and rent a chair. They'll keep the same price point, but then the amenities change and the value changes for the client. So they're not offering the same experience that a whole salon can offer with assistance, with somebody handling the appointments, with troubleshooting and teamwork, or all of these things that kind of are incorporated inside of a team-based salon that is not duplicatable when people go off on their own. So clients are paying the same amount, but they're not receiving the same experience. So are you able to afford and are you able to deliver the same experience and more inside of your new location? So these are all questions we're going to have to ask, because if we're not delivering the same value and the same experience, then eventually what's going to happen is your clientele is going to die off. And then you need a way to replace the clients that are going to rotate through. What I have personally seen, and I've seen this in posts on Facebook, I've talked to stylists who were renting at one time and now want to come back to commission, is they have a really strong clientele when they start off, and then the business ends up dwindling down because they can't deliver the same experience or the same thing that the client was experiencing before, and they don't know how to replace the clients that are now gone. So these are all questions that we need to ask ourselves. Now, my next question is, okay, so this person is bringing home $54,000. How many hours are you working to get that $54,000? If you take that number and divide it by, how many hours you've worked for the year, you're going to get what your hourly rate is, right? So that'll tell you how much you're making per hour. When we're actually going out on our own, it's more than just the work you do behind the chair. Again, I talked about a retention plan. I talked about a marketing plan. We now have to schedule clients. We have to answer clients. We have to answer emails. We have to do social media. We have to do email marketing possibly. We have to do our bookkeeping and keep track of our receipts. We have to go to the store. We have to stock our shelves. These are all things that we have to do. So when we're going off on our own, I would say the amount of hours worked behind the chair, and then at least add 10 more hours to work on your business. So you may be making more money, quote unquote, but when you really break down what you're making per hour by adding on those 10 extra hours, is that hourly rate worth it, right? Now, I also want you to consider, again, going back to your 5-year plan. What are your next steps for growth? When you think about growth in your career, what does that look like for you? Is it something that is going to happen? Are you self-motivated to experience and push yourself towards growth? Or are you somebody who is more complacent and you will get stuck in the exact same spot you are today and be in that same exact spot 5 years from now? So I think if you are planning on going on your own, creating a solid growth plan for yourself and having the self-motivation and the drive to actually push yourself to experience that growth for you and for your business. Now, these are some things you also need to take into consideration. How comfortable are you talking to your clients about money? I think another thing that I really see with a lot of booth renters and people who go into salon suites is they end up either moving to a chair, and there's a couple things that happen, right? They keep the same price point, or 2, they lower their rate a little bit to try to retain the clients that are already seeing them, right? I would say is a big no-no, okay? We don't want to lessen our prices. So if we're going to keep the same price point, what ends up happening is the person works year after year, year after year, year after year, and they get stuck in the same price point because they are afraid to increase their rates because now they have overhead to pay for, or they have a really hard time discussing money with their clients or raising their prices on their clients. So right now your rate might be great, but in 5 years and you've only done maybe like $1 or $2 increase, which to be honest is not a lot, is not going to usually be something that is sustainable for you and your business over the next 5 years. So if you have a difficult time talking about money or talking about price increases with your clients now, that's something that you need to work on and work through before you go and rent a chair. Because you're going to have to do price increases on a regular basis. 1, to experience growth for yourself and to have financial success for yourself, to keep up with supply and demand and to create demand in your schedule. And you're going to need to raise your prices because of things like inflation and increased cost of expenses. So if you have a difficult time talking to your guests about money, then renting a chair might not be great for you 5 years from now. It might just be a little increase today. So that's something that you should really take into consideration. Also, how good are you at handling unhappy guests? Because now there's no more buffer between you and the guest. I don't know if your salon owner handles unhappy guests or if there's a manager. Now, moving forward, if you do rent a chair, this is going to be all on you. So are you able to, have a good client experience, handle negative feedback? Are you able to handle redos on the financial side? Because that does cost money. These are all things we have to take into consideration. How capable are you of handling unhappy guests and having the ability to retain that client after they've experienced something that wasn't in reaching their expectations? Again, going back to boundaries. I see a lot of stylists struggle, and I've actually had quite a few people consider going back to commission from rental lately. I've had some conversations with people, even the thought or idea. Can you say no? I think a lot of people struggle with saying no, and what ends up happening is they end up burning out because they book clients outside of their regular working hours, or they, have a very full schedule. Again, they are afraid to raise their prices. So then they end up overbooking themselves because they don't have the capability of raising their prices to create room in their schedule to fill the clients in that actually want to pay the elevated price. But they end up booking clients outside of their working hours, and they end up working themselves to the bone. Instead of working 40 hours a week, then it gets pushed to 50, and then it gets pushed to 60 because you have to do all of your working on your business stuff as well as working behind the chair. So if you have a difficult time saying no, or you can't deliver no in a way that is going to be accepted by the guest, then maybe chair rental isn't for you. And then last but not least, client communication. This is something that you have to consider. Happens all week long. Text messaging, emailing, Instagram DMs. you don't get a break. And setting those boundaries is really hard for independent stylists because a lot of people don't understand why you can't respond immediately. Having that time away from work, those lines can get blurred. Going on vacation can be hard, taking time off for the holidays, because if you have a new client reach out and you're off for the week and you're not answering your phone, then that client is going to move on to somebody else, because we live in a time of instant gratification and instant response. And I've even seen it with myself where, I've had a new client wanting to come into me when I was renting, and I took the weekend off or left my phone at my rental salon. And then I would end up getting a bad review because I didn't respond in a timely way. So we have to understand that we need to have systems and policies and procedures set up for client communication. And those have to be clearly communicated to clients, or we have to have some sort of automation put in place so that when a client does reach out, it can communicate when we will respond back, right? So these are all things to take into consideration. Now, I also want to break down some numbers for everybody, because a lot of people think and they come to the assumption that their salon owner's taking, for example, this person is making 45%, which leaves 55% for the salon owner. They think that they're taking half of their money. I can tell you from personal experience, it is expensive to run a salon with great amenities and perks and benefits for your team. That salon owner is really lucky if they're taking home 5 to 7% of that total revenue that's being brought in. And that is the truth. Alone, you have to take into consideration when you go off on your own. Currently, right now, your salon owner is paying 7%, which is half of your taxes. So if you brought in $54,000, your salon owner paid roughly about $3,750. That is their portion of the taxes they paid for that income you took home. So that right there automatically gets put on you, right? 7% of the income that you take home. And then on top of that, processing fees. I've seen credit card processing fees up to 3%, okay? So if we're going on the low side, maybe 2%. So if you're bringing in $120,000 right there in just credit card processing fees, because who uses cash anymore? No one. And if you're somebody who is like, oh, well, I'm only going to accept cash in my business. That's not a convenient thing for your clients. And it's annoying. Like, I never have cash and I never use cash to pay for anything. And to be honest, most of our clients don't. I would say 95% of our transactions in the salon are all credit cards, right? So that right there is 2% on the low end. Is $2,400. Now, you're probably, as a new stylist or a chair renter, you're probably going to use something like Square to process your credit card fees, or if you're going to use a booking system, they also have the capability of, doing credit cards, and they're closer to more of like a 3%. So 3% of your money is gone right there. So that's $3,600. Right? So if we're thinking about that, so that's 10% essentially right there that you can just knock right off the top. If you are making 45% commission, and let's just say most of your clients are going to follow you, and maybe you can make 55% commission if you're lucky. Are all of those things going to be worth it? Credit card processing fees, you have to pay for so many more expenses. You have overhead if you get sick or you have to go to the hospital, or if something happens like you break your arm or your leg, are you going to be financially prepared for that? I would have at least 6 months worth of your overhead in a savings account for an emergency, because anything can happen. If you're going to a salon suite or a rental situation, most of the time those places require you to, sign a lease. And if you are thinking about moving to one of those, you should sign a lease, because it doesn't protect just the salon owner, it protects you as well. So the salon owner can't just kick you out on the curb and find somebody who will pay more in rent to take your spot, right? It's protection for both the person who's renting to the stylist and the stylist who's renting from the salon owner. So leases are protection. again, when you sign a lease, it's like signing a lease for an apartment. You're still required to pay your rent because that salon owner is holding your spot. So if you don't have the ability to save at least 6 months worth of expenses in case of an emergency, crazy things happen you don't even know, rental might not be the option for you. Now, something else to take into consideration is that when you do rent a chair, it's a lot of cash flow coming in, right? Because we're taking 100% of the services, but we have to save for things. We've got to save for our products. We have to save for taxes, which can be up to 35% of the total revenue you're bringing in. So we have to save for taxes, and that can be upwards to 35% of your generated revenue, depending on how many write-offs you have. You need to take into consideration if you're doing all the things right, maybe you can make 5% more. Again, is that 5% more going to be worth the work and effort and the goals you have set for yourself in the future? So these are all the things I would take into consideration if I was thinking about switching to rental. I remember moving to my rental salon, and depending on where you go, there are some salons that do have team effort. No one was willing to help me when I was at my rental salon. If I fell behind, no one was willing to help me shampoo. Everyone was just kind of out for themselves. There wasn't a lot of support. I had to pay for my own assistant, which was a huge expense for me. And again, if you're going to do these things, you should do everything legally. You need to pay your taxes legally, and you need to pay an employee legally. The support wasn't there. It was kind of lonely. I feel like it was kind of lonely. There was no camaraderie. It was definitely an experience that I'm so grateful for because I wanted to open my own salon. It was me practicing to open my business. So if you are thinking about renting, I think it's a beautiful place to start if you want to be a salon owner. So that is my feedback. It's kind of a long one, long-winded for this post I saw on Facebook. I think sharing it here, I was able to give my full opinion and all of the different bullet points I thought were so important. If you are thinking about making a huge shift in your business, you really need to weigh the pros and cons, and you really need to look at where you want to be in the next 5 years. There is so much growth opportunity inside of a commission salon, and there's so much opportunity just to focus on your art, the craft, and the clients, and just to have a really fulfilling life outside of the salon if you don't want to make the salon your entire life. It can be done the other way too, but again, you need to have strong boundaries and really know how to automate and put systems in place so your business runs in a way that is efficient for you. I hope today's episode was beneficial, and if you loved today's episode, be sure to share it with your favorite stylist. Be sure to tag me or send me a DM and share your favorite piece from today's episode. And if you are really loving our podcast, be sure to check out the Elevate Insider. This is our subscription podcast where I dive deeper and get more personal and offer coaching for salon owners and people in our industry. It's just a little bit of insight into what we offer at the Elevated Salon Owner Collective. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Thanks for tuning in to the Elevate podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. The Elevate podcast is hosted by me, Patricia Nowakowski, and is produced by Opulent Beauty Pro. To receive my free business guides, visit opulentbeautypro.com/free or click the link in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at Opulent Beauty Pro or at Patricia_Nowakowski_OBS. If you love this show, please consider subscribing, and we will see you next week.